a Thursday morning in beautiful Rocky River, Ohio. Although it's not beautiful this morning. It is cloudy. It's muggy. And it is beautiful, though, because Zac Jackson is here to break down everything going on with the Browns. Zach, what's happening with you?
Well, not everything, Bull. We'd be here for like 6 days. But if you want to talk for a few minutes about training camp and quarterbacks and stadiums and leadership and all sorts of speeding tickets, we can do it. Yeah.
There is plenty to get to. There's never a lack of stories when it comes to the Browns. I don't think I've ever seen a team. Well, no, I don't. It's not that I think. I know there's never been a franchise that has been this bad and yet this talked about as this franchise, especially since Jimmy Haslam took over.
Yeah, and even like go back to this May 1st. I say it all the time, and I'm only slightly exaggerating. Every single day, there's a story that has nothing to do with winning, right? Whether it's stadiums or speeding tickets or Miles doesn't want to answer a question, right? Or why is Isaiah Bond here? All this stuff, like it has nothing to do with winning. And if Miles is great and Isaiah Bond is great and they eventually find a quarterback, maybe they will win. But it is always something. And it's like as soon as training camp officially ended, their construction projects up that city they're building around the facility in Brea. Like you go out to practice, you can't hear anything because of all the construction there, because it's always going forward on everything but winning.
That's the sad but true part. Yeah. Even the Dylan Gabriel comments controversy, of course, throw that one in the mix here recently. But they are going to play football in a couple of weeks. Believe it or not, I think we're all excited to see regular season football.
Mm-hmm.
The first game of the season will be 2 weeks from today to start the NFL. Is that right? 2 weeks from today?
Yeah, 2 weeks from today.
It's unbelievable. I think we're all looking forward to that. Let's start with the Browns naming Joe Flacco the starter. You've thought the whole time he'd be the starter. Obviously, with Kenny Pickett hurt, there was really no surprise here, all right? I mean, where else could they go at this point?
Right. Yeah, no competition really ever developed, Bull, but he won the job. Like, he's clearly the best guy, and that's outside of the experience and leadership and command of the huddle that this team needs, this franchise needs, this offense needs, right? So Joe's throwing it pretty well. He looks to be in great shape. He's said the right things. And I think one thing that's interesting about Joe, obviously, he's been in the spotlight, right, for 18 years. This is his 18th NFL season. He knows how to do it, but he's not one of these guys that craves the media attention or comes up and tries to make a bunch of jokes or be buddy-buddy. He's very blunt. He's in command of the room, but he'll tell you what he sees and what he thinks. And he's talked a lot about the human element of things, how obviously some moments are bigger than others, how obviously when you're in his situation, you don't know how long it's going to last or when your next opportunity is going to come. And that's kind of why I was always predicting him. They needed a guy who was going to get in these meeting rooms in this huddle and get guys to run the right routes and get guys in the right place. And when it goes poorly, like it did the first day in Philly, to get in guys' asses a little bit, right? So they played better. I think they'll come out against the Rams twos on Saturday. They'll move the ball. And then we'll see what happens. They got some issues to tinker with the offensive scheme and just getting guys on the same page. They got some things to decide, obviously, with the roster. Is there a realistic receiver upgrade available? But why couldn't they go put 30 points on the Bengals in week 1 who can't tackle anybody?
Yeah, I mean, that could be a pretty high-scoring, pretty interesting game. The Bengals defense, don't get me started. I could go on for a while about that. But to your initial point on Joe Flacco, I love him because I've had a chance he's been on the podcast twice, and he's great. I love the honesty. We have so many guys that are just full of shit and don't tell you anything. He's not, like you say, he's not seeking out the media attention, but he's not a dick about it either. Like if he comes on with you, he gives you good answers. He's fun to talk to, and he's really honest, and that's kind of refreshing in the sport where there's so many cliche answers, especially from the head coach and the GM. I think the head, Stefanski and Andrew Berry, they went to the same school as the Guardians front office, right? They all talk the same way. It's really remarkable. They give you nothing.
Yeah, and that's frustrating, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the deal. I'll tell you, Bull, there's one quote from training camp that matters. One. And that's Jimmy Haslam saying, we need to see the 2 rookie quarterbacks play this year, and the head coach knows that, right? Yeah. So that's the one. Ignore all the other stuff. That's what matters, and that's what we're tracking. So that's not to say that Joe can't do well or won't do well, or that if he doesn't do well, that, who knows what's next, because there's 3 guys in line.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the one that matters, and that sets the realistic expectations for this team 2 weeks from the start of the season.
Speaking of the rookies, to the naked eye, to the untrained eye, it seems like Shador Sanders has been a lot better than Dylan Gabriel, but by all accounts, the coach trusts Dylan Gabriel more than he trusts Shador Sanders. Can you explain to me and others why that may be the case?
Well, I think the draft position indicates that. I think the
Sure.
coach and the whole organization planned on drafting Dylan Gabriel, and they did. Whatever audible was called, or whoever called that audible on Saturday to go get Shador Sanders was different. I think Dylan's been more available in camp, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think both played well in their preseason settings, and you can argue all day about what that really gains, but it's a game environment. It's not scripted. Dylan got rid of the
Sure.
ball quickly. He converted third downs. That was great. Shador had red zone opportunities. He converted them. That was great. They both made mistakes. Obviously, Dylan turned the ball over. But I think way too much has been made, and this is completely the Browns' fault. Way too much has been made about Dylan versus Shador, right? Because this was about rookie quarterbacks against being rookie quarterbacks, against whatever environment was in front of them. Did they play with the twos? Did they play with the fours? Did they have to
Right.
play a whole game? Are they playing hurt? All of these things. And both of these guys need to grow. This is why I think they're going to keep 4 quarterbacks. I just can't imagine them putting themselves, and I hate to apply logic to the Cleveland Browns. I cannot imagine them putting themselves in the situation they did 2 years ago when they traded Josh Dobbs for basically nothing and had to play a rookie when things went haywire before we even got to the end of September. Right. So if they do that again, like I've just seen nothing from Dylan Gabriel that indicates he would be ready to play in a real game. And he is clearly ahead in the eyes of the coaches. I've tracked every rep. I have not foolishly tracked every completion or tried to present those with no context, but I've tracked every rep.
Yeah.
And since day one, Dylan Gabriel's been first. And so will that change? Can that change? Sure. But I just don't see either one of them being ready. And with jobs at stake, I don't think you can have a rookie backup quarterback in September of this season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I assumed for most of the offseason that they were just talking out of their ass about keeping 4 quarterbacks, but it makes sense. I said on UCSS the other day, like, if you don't feel like the rookies are ready right now, well, then how do you leave them as a backup? If it's truly about, because it's easy to say, well, let's just play them. Who cares? We stink. But if you really care about these quarterbacks and have any hope of them having any success, then you can't put them in before they're ready. They're clearly not ready yet. So if Joe Flacco gets hurt at 41 years old, it wouldn't be crazy to think that in game 1, game 2, whatever.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, you need to have that veteran that can be there and at the very least step in to finish that game, if not be the starter for a couple of weeks after that.
Yeah, Bull, speaking of talking about the Browns' issues for 6 days, right?
Yeah.
Like, we could all agree without going too deeply that this is an awkward intersection, right? Because they're a highly paid team, an older team.
Yeah.
We know they're not good enough, right? But here's the other thing. This front office loves to just be different and be right. And that's why from the start, you would be keeping 4 quarterbacks when nobody else really would.
True. Yeah.
But the reality is nobody knows how this is going to go. And naming Joe the starter takes it from like 500 scenarios to like 200, but there's still 200 different ways that this could go with roster cuts, with trades, with injuries, with the mandate to play the rookies, right? So you might as well, in a season where you're not winning the Super Bowl and you only have the 2 older quarterbacks under contract for right now, you might as well hold them, go forward with them, see what develops and comes to be in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and then make your decisions from there. And ideally, especially a guy like Dylan Gabriel, who played 6 years of college, he should be more ready to be your backup in October and November, and then get himself ready on the field, right?
Yeah.
But I just don't see the risk, and I see it as an unnecessary risk if you do it on September 7th.
Absolutely. There's video now of Deshaun Watson working out. Are you excited about that?
Who? No, I'm not excited about that. I can't imagine
man.
the Browns are excited about that. I don't want to speculate too much, Bull, because I
Yeah.
really don't know what's going to happen there. He will go on active PUP on Tuesday on the regular season PUP list. That's just, something you have to do. But there will be a date that they'll have to activate him by to have any chance. And so it'll really come down to, let's wait till that date. And if the team that deems him ready, then there is a chance he will play the season. But if the team does not deem him ready, then he'll be shut down for the season. And it's no longer worth discussing until we get to January and we try to figure out what they're going to do with the remaining $135 million on the contract.
Well, listen, I think a lot of us, I know I certainly thought it was a good idea at the time, but not to guarantee every last dollar, but what are you going to do? All right, at running back, what do you think they're going to do? Do you expect them to add a veteran here or just go with what they got?
I do. I do not expect Quinshon Judkins to play anytime soon.
Yeah.
Now, right, like maybe early October, but
Right.
suspension or no,
Yeah.
and really only the league investigators and those in the Browns they're communicating with know. He's missed all of training camp,
Yep.
right? And so if he's not going to be there, whether it's suspension or just not signed yet, I do think they need a bigger back, and I do think they need a veteran back. So, are they going to give up huge assets for that? No. Are they realistically going to try to trade for Brian Robinson? I don't know. But
Yeah.
Audric Estime is either going to get cut or traded by the Denver Broncos. He played for Tommy Reese in college. He was
Okay.
a fourth round pick, I believe, just 2 years ago. Like that's a name to know. It's going to be a guy who's been a backup,
Yeah.
but I think it has to be a guy who's 225 or 230 because Ford and Sampson are both smaller backs.
Would they consider? Obviously, he's been a starter for most of his career, but would you consider Zeke Elliott at this point?
I don't think so, but again,
Yeah.
I would not have told you that Isaiah Bond was going to be on this team either.
That's true.
So which is silly me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think so. They've never really been into those older backs. And
Yeah.
if you get in a situation in week 6 or week 8 and you're ravaged by injuries, yes, but they were ready to move on from Nick Chubb,
Yeah.
who,
Fair.
even on one leg is 2 times the player that Ezekiel Elliott's been
Fair.
in recent years.
He might actually be the starter for the Texans now.
He might be.
With Mixon.
And listen, there's hard feelings about that. The Browns' evaluation was that they love Nick Chubb, but they don't think that he can play anymore.
Right.
Right. And to an extent, they were wrong about Kareem Hunt in that evaluation. Kareem got to the perfect situation. That's what he did. And good for Kareem for extending his career and doing what he's done.
Let's move to wide receiver. You mentioned the Isaiah Bond thing. We talked about this for a minute off the air. The Browns just continue, and there's some fans that don't care,
Sure.
and they continue to take one bad guy or one troubled guy, if you want to be nice about it, after the other. It seems like none of them have worked out. I didn't, I said the other day, I was like, well, why would you give him guaranteed money? And somebody said, well, it's only $3 million, but. And I get it's not a lot of money, but why? Who else was anybody else going to give him guaranteed money?
Yeah, I think they must have been, or else they probably wouldn't have guaranteed it, right? The whole thing was Isaiah Bond's agent's victory lap when you look back at it. So exactly how it went, I don't know, but Isaiah told us the other day that he and his agent and Andrew Berry had been talking since before the draft. So this was long in motion, and this is what this front office loves to do. Yeah. Look at what we did, which nobody else did. That's what they love to do. So we've seen 2 practices. The kid can run. He came as advertised, right? Why would you do this? Well, because you don't have a guy other than Judy who has this kind of gear. He appears to have this kind of gear. How fast can he catch up? What can he really be asked to do? Can he stay out of trouble? We'll see. He was not officially charged, right? By all accounts, the league is not going to punish him. I think we'll find out officially on Tuesday, but indications are that he's not going to be punished. So his career starts, and it's up to him and the Browns to maximize it. I mean, I see why they did it, Bull, but it's just like every time that they restructure Watson's contract. It's like, well, of course they had to do it, but like we're all beating our heads into the wall because why are we dealing with this again? And what has ever been the result of this stuff?
Only negative. In your article recently, you were predicting what you thought the 53-man roster would be. And you had Deontay Johnson on the outside looking in. Has he been a pain in the neck at all, or is this just about him not getting it done on the field?
Yeah, he's just been the 8th best receiver in camp. Yeah. So that's what that comes down to for me. So there's a receiver emergency around the league. I think Deontay Johnson's going to be on somebody's roster, and I won't be completely stunned if it's the Browns roster because they made this decision to see it through. But just based on what we've seen, and he plays a different position than Isaiah Bond.
Right.
But the Browns have to keep Gage Larvin. Like he has earned that in camp, and Deontay Johnson has not. So we can dive back in next week and see what actually happens.
Yep.
But to me, that's pretty black and white. Although obviously when you get to the bottom 10 of these rosters, nothing is, because you don't know what situation will happen. Right. And then they made a trade yesterday. I think there were 5 trades yesterday involving late round pick swaps, and the Browns did one with Juwan Briggs, who I had right on the bubble. That tells me Shelby Harris is going to be on the team despite not having any guaranteed money. And the Browns then are awaiting the return of Mike Hall, which they obviously already were. But it's going to be those kind of trades and then those kind of situations which dictate what you do with the guys who still are on the bubble. I just see very firmly Deontay Johnson on the wrong side of the bubble here 4 days before cuts.
Obviously, rookie Harold Fannin Jr. is not on the bubble. He's clearly going to be on this team. How big a role will he play early in the season, do you think?
Because he can play fullback, wide receiver, tight end, and threw a pass last week in
Yeah,
Philly. I think there's a chance a big role. So
like it.
he's not been consistent catching it, which
Yeah.
nobody really has except for Judy. But just the way they line him up and the way they coach him up before practice tells me that they envision a big role. So when you look at Cedric Tillman, huge question mark. When you look at Jamari Thrash, good camp, huge question mark. You look at the state of the run game, huge question mark. It's clear they like Fannin. We know Njoku's up and down nature, and we know Njoku can also play multiple positions. I
Right.
don't see why we don't see both of these guys being used in a variety of ways and probably used frequently starting early in the game on September 7th.
We know that the offensive line in the future is a major concern with guys in the last year of his
Mhm.
contract. But for this year, and there's been issues, obviously. There's been a lot of injuries in that group. But going into the season, at least it seems like everybody's healthy, and maybe the O-line will be improved. What do you think? How are you feeling about the O-line heading into the
Yeah, so
season?
is Trey Henderson going to be on the field on September 7th or not?
I'm going to say no because the Bengals are
Yeah.
idiots.
Yeah, then I feel better about the offensive line. No, I feel pretty good about it, Bull.
Yeah,
DeJuan Jones, look, he's talented. He played 1 year of left tackle in college.
yeah,
That was a while ago. He's got to learn. He's got to get better at the NFL level. He's made not even 20 starts at the
right.
NFL level, and only 3 of them, or I think maybe 2 starts, 3 appearances were at left tackle. So that's the concern. But that's why they brought Tevin Jenkins here. The big concern now is Cornelius Lucas, the swing tackle. This is not something that the average fan looks at, but he had an
Yeah,
ankle
sure.
injury last week. Is he going to be ready to go? Uh, every team wants more corners and more offensive tackles, and that includes the Browns. But when every team wants them, it's a scramble. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I do feel good about it. I think Joel and Wyatt and Ethan Poshik are hungry and angry, and I think they're healthy. And as long as they stay healthy, then this line has a chance to be good.
You mentioned corner. Obviously, Denzel Ward. What's the latest on it? It wasn't as serious. He's all
Well,
right, or
Kevin
we
did
don't
not
know.
commit to
Okay,
week 1. Now Kevin does not commit to today being
that's true.
Thursday, right?
Yeah.
So it's a concern. He was clearly in pain. He wasn't out there. Now, does Denzel Ward need to practice in the last week of August? No, he doesn't. But we are 17 days away, right? And Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase, the best wide receiver on the planet.
Yeah.
And Denzel has spent this summer playing like the best cornerback on the planet. I do
Yeah.
not say that lightly. So this is huge because the fall off is already huge from Ward to everybody else, and specifically Newsome to everybody else from there. I think Higgins and Yoshivas will absolutely torch the Browns. But if Ward misses time, then
Oh my
it goes
gosh.
from borderline emergency to full on nuclear emergency at corner.
Yeah, I mean, you asked anytime Jamar Chase is asked who's the best corner you faced, he always says Denzel Ward. Ward is the only. Obviously, I watch the Bengals almost every game. Ward is the only cornerback that consistently plays well against him. The only one I've seen.
Yeah,
So,
he's been so good. And he
yeah,
is so big on being out there all the time and
yep,
perfect attendance and all of these things. And so
it's a
he's
shame.
hurt, right? And
Yeah,
like people act like he's injured. He has had injury issues. He's never missed more than 4 games in a season.
yeah,
He has missed the run up to a season before, and he's played well. If
yeah,
Denzel Ward can be out there, and right now I think that he'll be out there, he
yeah.
will. But we don't know. And I'm not sure we're going to get any clarity until before. Now, 2 years ago, when they stupidly got him the concussion in the last preseason game, we didn't see him till the Thursday before he went in and he played well. And
Right.
that turned out to be a great year for the Browns. So
Yeah.
I would as much as it would be a panic if he's not, I would tell everybody, let's not panic for 2 weeks because none of this matters to the top. None of what happens the next 2 weeks
Right.
matters to the top 10 guys on the roster.
Yeah. Fair enough. Carson Swessinger. How are you feeling about him heading into the season?
Really good. I actually met
Yeah.
him for the first time yesterday and talked with him.
Yeah.
He's a baby, man, and like a 1 year starter in college. So my only concern, Bull, is that he's not going to get eased in at all, right? He's
Yeah.
going in like captain type role, 90% of the snaps. Like they have nobody else. But they drafted him for that reason. And they drafted him because he's smart, because he can play other positions if necessary, but they think he's a true middle linebacker. And he's going to grow into it. But all indications are really good. Thumbs up, way up on 3 of the first 4 draft picks. And then obviously Judkins isn't here. So,
Right.
this has to be a really good rookie class for the Browns. And on Graham, on Swessinger, on Fannin, all these guys are going to play, and
Yeah.
they have earned the trust of their coaches. It's just you're looking at maybe having the worst run game in the league.
Yeah. Not a lot of optimism for Dylan Sampson, or is it more?
He's got some shake to him. I
Yeah.
haven't really seen him do a lot. I would say this though, like these non-tackling practices are not really ideal for
Mm-hmm.
the run game. And
Yep.
especially when you're going up against your own defense every day and the defensive line that you face every day has one job, which is to get right upfield and blow it up. They've seen all this coming, you know. We'll see. Jerome Ford is fine. They're going to run some end rounds. They're going to do some other stuff. I mean, look, Isaiah Bond is probably going to play in week 1. And he's probably going to
Yeah.
play a jet sweep, bubble screen type
Yep.
of basically extended running game role. He'll have to, because
Yeah.
otherwise, when he comes on the field, they're going to know it's a bomb.
Fair point. When it comes to Judkins, going back to him for a minute, the hold up on him getting signed, is this about like guaranteed money going forward because of what happened?
Well, yeah. So in a standard contract,
Yeah.
if he signs and then gets suspended, the guarantees are voided anyway. So
Okay.
again, the only people who know are the league investigators and whomever in the Browns the league communicates with for
Yeah.
sure. But the way I read it, Bull, is that the Browns at this point, they've already lost so much time, should be in no hurry until there's a ruling, because the ruling would affect both his availability and his contract anyway.
That's a good point. Is there a real kicking competition, or is Hopkins, who they stupidly paid a lot of money to, definitely the kicker?
Yeah, some of us were standing at practice talking about that, and there's no answer. I don't think he's definitely the kicker. I think he's probably the kicker. I
Yeah.
think he'd be wise to kick well on Saturday. I have not yet explored what the rest of the kicker market might be, but I have to think
Yeah.
that Andrew Berry and Bubba Ventrone have at least explored it, because this team, we know their margins,
Yeah.
right? And they cannot lose on a missed kick,
And who
or
do
they
we
might not win for another month if they do.
No, that's right. I mean, they're if they're going to win, it's going to be low scoring games and barely
Except for
scoring
the
enough points.
Bengals, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That game's going to be wild.
I think so too. I had not looked really at any NFL lines. I've just kind of been out of it.
Yeah.
But someone sent me the other day and said the total in Bengals Browns is rising, and I said, well, I'm not surprised, and B, it's probably not high enough now
Yeah.
that Flacco's officially in and the Bengals are healthy.
Right. This will be a back and forth. The Browns defense obviously is good, but when the Bengals offense is on, nobody can stop them consistently, and the Bengals defense is probably going to be really bad. So,
and the Browns are playing Cam Mitchell and Miles Harden at corner right now, and
yeah.
like we just haven't seen it from those guys. So
No.
we have seen Cam play well as a rookie.
Yes.
And we've seen a little bit from Miles Harden. Like last year as a 7th round rookie, he was ahead of schedule. But to see them on a field against a top 3 offense, I don't think it'll go well.
No, fair. Last thing I wanted to hit on was returns. Who are you expecting to be the returners? That's been an issue for the Browns.
Yeah, I expect it to be DeAndre Carter.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he'll make the initial 53 or not. They might have to. He's a vested veteran, so they might have to do some juggling there.
Yeah.
We don't know the state of the receiving corps, so we can't say. I think Larvin and Bond are potentially in the mix. I think Pierre Strong is the ultimate kind of fallback guy,
Sure.
assuming he's on the roster. But I think the plan is for it to be Carter. It's just a matter of how they get there, Bull, because I don't know that he's going to be on the 50. He's not going to be in the wide receiver rotation. So is he going to be on the initial 53? And given his status, that doesn't really matter. They could cut him and bring him back. I don't think anybody else in the league is circling the wagons for a 32-year-old return specialist. Probably. If the Browns have to let him go for some procedural stuff.
Zach, great stuff as always, man. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Bull.
All right, Zac Jackson of The Athletic does such a good job covering the Browns. I always love getting his insight and his thoughts. I feel like he has just about a better feel of this team than anybody, and so it was good to chat with him. Let's get to some reaction in a second, but first I want to let you know that my guy Jimmy Ott here at Bet Rivers is talking college football. How about best bets for this coming weekend, week 0? Let's hear what Jimmy has to say.
Join me, Jimmy Ott, and Paul Stone every Tuesday and Thursday on the College Sports Rush YouTube channel. It's our college football conference previews. It's win total over and unders, individual games, picks to win the conference, picks to make it to the college football playoff, picks to win it all, and individual futures as well. It's every Tuesday and Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern, college football conference previews on the College Sports Rush YouTube channel.
All right, welcome back. Let's get to some reactions, some comments. Brian says, good morning. Good morning, Brian. Are the Browns closer in signing Quinshawn Judkins and what's held it up? I just asked Zac Jackson that question. You just heard the answer. He's not going to be signed until, or at least in Zach's opinion, and he's probably right, although you never know with the Browns, he's probably not going to be signed until the decision on if he's going to get suspended or not is happening. Diesel says it smells like football. Yes, it does. I can't wait for regular season football. I'm done with the preseason. Can't wait for this weekend to be over and plowing ahead to regular season football, which starts in 14 days. I have how many fantasy drafts? My 82 fantasy drafts that I'm going to be doing over the next 2 weeks. I can't wait. I don't understand why people do their fantasy drafts too early. A lot changes. I never do a fantasy draft before the end of the preseason. Nathan says, good morning. Good morning, Nathan. Did anyone watch the Guardians Diamondbacks? Notice the bat boy for the Guardians is Kyle Manzardo's doppelganger. I didn't notice that. I did watch the game. I'll talk more about that game in a minute. Let's see. Flacco being named is no surprise. Flacco will be a great mentor for Shador. Flacco has the experience and the credentials for Shador to learn over the next year or two. Then Joe Flacco's not starting for the Browns for 2 years. Let's not get crazy. Nathan says it'd be great if the Browns traded for Trey Hendrickson. There's no chance the Bengals are going to trade him to the Browns. Diesel says the cognitive dissonance to keep 4 quarterbacks simply as Flacco insurance for 6 games is absurd. If the rookies aren't ready, who cares? I thought we're trying to lose and get a high pick anyway. Teams don't think that way. The coaches don't think that way. Diesel. And what's the difference? I mean, in the end, so you're keeping a 4th quarterback over a 6th wide receiver or a 9th offensive lineman. If they're that low down the depth chart, it wouldn't be that hard to replace. Michael, let's see. Matt says, thoughts on the cornerback depth? Yeah, we just talked about that. It's not pretty. It's going to be a huge problem in week 1 if Denzel Ward can't play, but I won't count Denzel Ward out. But Denzel Ward playing or not is a huge difference. That's about as big a difference as you can have from a defensive player in this particular game, knowing who they're going up against and knowing that Denzel Ward is really the only corner in the entire league that has played well consistently against Jamar Chase. Not that he's, Jamar Chase has had his moments against him. He's going to, it's going to happen. But Denzel Ward has played consistently well against Jamar Chase more often than not, and there's not a single other player in the league that can say that, and that's why he is so important in this game in particular. So Max is excited that Ethan Posick is a former LSU Tiger, so I'm excited for you, Max. There you go. And Rock says good morning. Good morning to you. Finally, on the Guardians, before we wrap it up here, Guardians lose yesterday, and, I consistently said when they were playing better that I wasn't really buying them as a playoff team, but I was secretly hoping that, not secretly, I was openly hoping I was wrong, and obviously it's not looking good right now. The Guardians have dropped to just 2 games over 500. They have lost 5 of their last 6 and 7 of their last 10. So they're not playing well, and they've done it against some weaker teams on the schedule. I mean, they lost 2. They won 2 out of 3 against the Marlins. That was decent. Won 2 out of 3 of the White Sox. You hoped you could sweep those. Swept by Atlanta and lost 2 out of 3 to Arizona. Now the schedule's getting tougher. They don't really, outside of one series with the White Sox and I guess Minnesota later in the season, they don't play anybody terrible. I mean, Texas is not great. They've been playing poorly, but they're, just a game or 2 back of the Guardians. Same with Tampa Bay, close by. You got Seattle, you got Boston, you got Tampa again. Kansas City, who's playing better. You still got 2 series with Detroit. So, it doesn't look promising. But Seattle's not playing particularly well right now. Boston has struggled of late. So they're only 3 games out of the wild card still. I'm not counting them out. I will say the exciting thing out of yesterday's game, even though they blew it, Kate Smith gives up the home run in the 9th, and then Matt Festa gives up the home run in the 10th. But two things I'm very excited about when it comes to the Guardians. Number one, I love how C.J. Kayfus is playing. He's done a really nice job since getting called up to the big leagues. We've seen some immediate success. Obviously, it's a very small sample size to this point. He's only had, 50 at-bats. How many plate appearances has he had? 54, I believe, 54 plate appearances. Yeah. And 756 OPS. He's hit 2 homers. He's knocked in 7. He's got 6 extra base hits in 16 games. I like what I've seen with him. I've liked the defense has been solid even in the outfield. I think obviously we've got a long, long way to go. But, for a guy that I was screaming and a lot of you were screaming to get called up, CJ Kafis has done a nice job so far. Obviously, Kyle Manzardo has continued to be pretty solid. I know he didn't have a good game yesterday, but overall he's done a nice job. There was really not much offensively for the Guardians yesterday. But the big story out of yesterday's game on a positive front is Parker Messick making his major league debut, lefty, just 24 years old. I thought he was outstanding in this game against Arizona. I would have left. I know they got out of it anyway. I would have left him in. I hate taking. You guys making his major league debut. He's got 2 outs in the 7th inning. Let him get the last out. You're facing the 9-hitter. I was frustrated by that, but I mean, and he got he got in and out of trouble with that weird 5th inning when it was the 5th when Arizona got 3 straight hits and didn't score. Runner thrown out at the plate, guy falling down. But 6 2/3, 7 hits, 1 walk, 1 run, and 6 strikeouts. I thought he looked outstanding. I thought he had very good command. I loved what I saw from Parker Messick. So yet another starting pitcher to keep an eye on here, and it'll be interesting to see if they just let him remain in the rotation the rest of the season. I'll be curious about that. He's not even his next time through the rotation at the moment. The Guardians don't have him listed as the starter. I would assume he'll pitch against Tampa on Tuesday, but the Guardians are off today, so they could choose to skip that spot. But why would you? I'd love to see Parker Messick pitch against Tampa, and that would set him up to pitch in Boston on September 1st as well. So I hope they continue to throw him out there. Obviously, Slade Ciccone has really struggled his last few starts. He's going to pitch again tomorrow in Texas when the Guardians are back in action. They got 3 in Texas, and then they come home for a week against Tampa and Seattle before going back on the road. So that was the positive. I mean, it's unfortunate that Cade Smith gives up the home run to Gurriel in the 9th, but the positive from a long-term perspective is the performance by Parker Messick. And in the short term, I'm just curious, and I hope they don't send him back down. And I get it's not fair to Joey Cantillo at the moment because he's pitched decently, but I loved what I saw from Parker Messick, and I want to see more. And I'm sure a lot of you do also. So, and hopefully at some point, remember the for those who don't know, in 10 days or 11 days, whatever it is, on September 1st, the rosters expand for the final 4 weeks of the season. They go from 26 guys to 28 guys. So we'll obviously see one more pitcher come up. I would think it might be Joey Cantillo. He'll come up and pitch out of the pen, or maybe they'll go to a 6-man rotation. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's the opportunity. Could we see still Chase DeLauder, who we've been waiting for a year? Could we see Bazzana before the end of the season? These are things to keep an eye on in terms of the offense in the final few weeks. All right, thanks to everybody for joining me today. I appreciate everybody that chimed in on the YouTube chat. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button. My goal is to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of September. I'm roughly 1,300 away from 10,000. So the goal is a lofty one, but with your help, we can get there, and I would appreciate it. Thanks to Alex and Max for producing today. Thanks to Zac Jackson for joining me today. I'll talk to you all on UCSS later today. About 90 minutes. I'll be on UCSS tomorrow. I'll be on Betting Weekly Hardball tomorrow, and then back with the Bullpen with Dustin on Tuesday. Until then, we'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. Brought to you by Bet Rivers. See you, everybody.